Good day, math learners! I'm back! In this topic, we'll discuss about collection of data. From the word collection of data, we collect data. Sampling techniques. The value of statistics depends on a particular sample selected from a population. In statistics and survey methodology, sampling is very important. It will be the basis of the selection of the subset of individuals within a population to estimate the characteristics of the whole population. The three advantages of sampling are: first, lower cost. Why is it lower cost? Because you can save money because you're just taking the sample instead of the whole population. Faster data collection. It is easier because smaller population only. Homogeneity and quality of data. There are different ways and instruments in collecting data, and they are: first, the questionnaire method. This method makes use of questionnaire, which allows feedback from a large number of respondents. Number 2, interview method. This method makes use of an interview guide, which includes questions to obtain in-depth responses from the person being interviewed. And lastly, that will be the observation method. This method makes use of observation, from wherein the behavior of the respondents being observed and it is recorded. Sampling methods. Sampling is the process of selecting observation or getting a sample from the population to provide an adequate description and inferences of the population. The first one, that will be simple random sampling, or the SRS. It defines as a sampling technique that each sample of the same size has an equal chance of being selected. Example, that will be the fishbowl. Okay, in the fishbowl, you will just pick any respondents. Inside the fishbowl, many of the respondents are there. So you will just pick it up, and that will be just simply pick respondents. In this case, the respondents is randomly selected by picking in the fishbowl. That will be simple random sampling. Schematic sampling. It is the selection of samples from a population according to a set schedule or plan. Example, as you can see in the figure, so in every third item is systematically selected. So, and every third item is being selected as our sample. You get the picture? So, the third item is systematically selected as our sample. That will be schematic sampling. Number 3, stratified random sampling. When it's stratified random sampling, it is a sampling technique that divides the population into groups called strata. So, as you can see in the picture, or in stratified random sampling, your first identity members of your sample who belong to each group. Then you randomly sample from each of those subgroups in such a way that the sizes of the subgroups are sample proportional to the population. So in this picture, or in this case, 3 women and 3 men were equally selected. So 3 men, 3 women, they are equally selected, and that will be stratified random sampling. Another sampling methods, that will be the cluster or area sampling. Cluster or area sampling is you're dealing a large population. You're dealing the cities, example, the cities, all the cities of the Philippines. You're getting a sample for each city. That will be clustered area sampling. It is a sampling technique that divides the population into clusters and then randomly selects some clusters. So example, cities of the Philippines, you will just randomly pick which city you want as your sample or as your sampling method, as your sampling. Example, so cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4, cluster 5, cluster 6. In this case, in cluster sampling, the sampling unit is the whole cluster instead of sampling individuals from within each group. A researcher will study a whole cluster. In the image below, or in the image here, the strata are natural groupings by head color. That will be called as the strata. A sample size of 6. So in this case, cluster 2 and cluster 4 are being selected. So that will be cluster area sampling. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer the given formative assessment.